and tidy edited down video, but I have ways for you to make it faster. You can click that little gear on the YouTube settings right there on the video and adjust the playback speed, make me sound like a chipmunk, and it'll go a lot faster. You can also look and see if there's timestamps for this project in the description, and if you're on a desktop, you can hover over the time bar at the bottom of the screen and see if it's chunked up into chapters, and then that way you can go directly to the step you're looking for. And lastly, you can also tap on the screen on the right hand side of the video picture or on the left hand side to make the video jump ahead, forward or backward if you're on a mobile device. And you can adjust that amount in your settings so you can have complete control over how much it jumps. So if you are on a desktop, you can use the fast forward or the rewind, and that will make it go faster as well. You can also enable subtitles, and the little CC on the screen will enable closed captioning. That way, if I am a little bit harder to understand with that double playback speed, the subtitles might help you out. All right, well, I know that it's not a nice little edited video, but if you sew with me, we'll get there together and it'll be lots of fun. And now for the live stream. Happy sewing! Hi, how's it going? A little bright. I'm growing out my bangs, so prepare for lots of forehead. Hi, Drew. Hi, Terry. How are you? Okay, you know that we have a big step ahead of us when you have to watch one of your old videos to figure out the best way to do it. I was literally studying because I know a couple years ago I sewed a half zip live, and I sat there and I figured out the most efficient way to get it to look ready to wear with what I had on hand. And it came out really nice, but I just couldn't remember some of those little things. I'm so glad I watched it because I forgot about the zipper guard, and I changed my collar. So I wanted to show you those changes before we get going, just in case you're interested in sewing something like this. So I am using, sorry, it's a little bright, but my fabric's a little dark today. I'm using the Sierra Fleece Pullover by 5 out of 4 Patterns. I'm doing this color, solid color view, and I'm sewing it differently than how they have it in the instructions, which the instructions are totally fine, but I really like it when we're gifting this to someone as a donation, right? So we really want it to not look like they're like homemade, you know. So, hi Julie, hi Ray, nice to see you. How's it going, you guys? So this is going to be the men's fleece that we make. We're also going to make a women's and a child later in the month, in a couple weeks. And I'm using the Wardrobe by Me pattern for those. And we're going to donate all 3 to First Families Now, which supports people on the Pine Ridge Reservation. And this was all due from a viewer. So a viewer made all this possible. So this is really fun. Hi, Amy. Hi, Margaret. Hi, Lindsay. 3:30 in the morning there, right? You're on our time. Hi, Aisha. You're going to have more trouble going home, Lindsay. Okay, I need to clean my glasses. I am so haphazard with my glasses, you guys. Like, I toss them in my bag. I just, ugh. Glasses case, what's that? All right, so I made 2 changes this morning. Remember how the collar had that really severe angle pointing towards the top? I'm gonna take a chance and take that out. I'm gonna make it straight. And the reason I'm doing this is because the one thing that I didn't really think about when we were cutting it, and I was talking about that, was the fact that if you have an angle like this, you know, like say your collar is cut at an angle like this, when the other side comes around to sew it, here, let's mimic that angle best we can. I might be making it more severe than it actually was, right? So when it comes around and sews to itself like this, you end up having a point right here at the neck and here. The zipper is going to separate it. It's going to be more like this. I'm not down for that. Mafio, nice to see you. I hope you had a good summer. We saw you a bit this summer. So I'm squaring it off, and when I put this around my neck, like this is the extra large men's, when I put this around my neck and put it straight, like put it around, it's gonna be fine. It just depends. Like if the neckline is really low, like if they've made the neckline really wide at the bottom and like lower on your body, then it is gonna put this top of the collar not in the best place, right? You really want the neckline to be up high. So hopefully it is. It's small enough around the bottom it feels like it is. All right, so the other thing I did, which is optional, is I made a zipper guard. So when we sew this in, it's going to come around like this. I also made my inner collar this jersey. And the reason I'm doing that is really just to kind of accentuate the gray. I'm gonna be adding with the gray binding. Hey Shim, how's it going? Hey Nancy, hello. And I thought that is a nice touch because my binding is a gray heather as well. It's here. Do I see it? No, look at this. Completely different company. Matches pretty darn good. So we're going to accentuate it with that. And when you've sewn your zipper, so let's say you have your zipper in here, right? And you have your zipper guard. When it comes over the top like this, your neck is protected right here from the zipper, right? You need a makeup guard, right? I used to, one of the designers I worked with, she was a really awesome lady. I worked at Kokita, at the water sportswear place. She really, really wanted to design cuffs, like not just the cuff, but a part of your jacket that had like a little terry cloth piece there. Because you know when you're out in the cold or you're running or whatever, and everyone wipes their nose. So it sounds gross, but at the same time, people still do it. So she was like, just provide a spot for them to do this that actually does the job so that it's not getting all over the jacket. It's hidden and it just washes away and it's comfortable. You know, just something. And I think of that with makeup too. Like you just need somewhere on your body where you can just go, you know? Okay. I don't know why I'm talking because I just had to watch one of my live streams back and it was painful. So I like seeing myself like interact with you guys. I was like, oh my God, I don't know why they watch me. So anyway, so this is my plan. So if you wanted to do something like this, let me tell you what I did and you can follow along. I'm gonna be instructive when I sew this. It's gonna look really nice. I'm hoping it's gonna look really nice. So it won't look like the way they have. No, their angle is much more severe. So when I did this, so our seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch, right? So let's draw it in here. We always work on the seam line. You're gonna hear me say this like a bazillion times in your lifetime because I can't stress it enough, right? So that's our juncture right there, right? Sorry, it's a little bright. That didn't make it better, did it? Right, so there's her juncture. This is the top of the collar. It's very deceptive. So I just squared up, right? So I'm gonna line a horizontal line on my ruler here with this line along the neck, right? And I'm gonna slide the ruler over so that the line stays there. But I want the intersection of this edge to fall right where this 3/8 hits this front right here, okay? If we square up from that point, yes, you're gonna cut this little corner off right here. I'll bring it up. Let me bring it up, sorry. So you see, we're gonna cut this little corner off like this. We're gonna square up from that point. Then you will not change the circumference length of your collar piece. Because if you just square up from this little tip right here, like slide the ruler over right here, you're going to increase your collar by a fat 1/8 of an inch on each side, which is 1/4 of an inch. And you do not want this to get larger than it's better if this collar is slightly smaller than larger. So anyway, if you finally finish cutting out the 75 pattern, you start assembling my potato. Yeah, that one is kind of heavy. Sorry, they're vacuuming in the, I don't know why they're vacuuming today, but they're vacuuming out in the lobby. Staring, my wife says that you're one of those fuzzy. Cool. I am pretty nice, you know, for the most part. Anyway, so just make sure that if you want to square up your collar, you go straight up from that neckline intersection of your seam, boop, and then straight over, boop, and then you would have a squared off collar, all right? Now for this little zipper guard I made, I just wung this just now. I didn't want to look at my video to figure out how much. I made this 1 3/4 inch wide, and then I made it longer than I need, and then I just rounded this edge. That's all I did. I interfaced a piece of jersey. See, there's interfacing back there. It's black, and made the same piece. Now, let's hope I actually did this. Oh, yeah, okay. There's a left and a right to this. I'm really glad I did this correctly because that was accidental. So you want the zipper guard when it's sewn in to be jersey side up so that when it wraps around like this on the top of the collar, the fleece is against your body like this. And what shows to the world is this little green bit here. Because we're also, this is a men's, so this is going in the left zipper guard, left zipper, right? So if you're doing women's, I would do this the opposite, right? I would make the jersey face up still, but the curve the other direction. So, right, a sweatshirt with a nose wipe, right? I think about it. I've thought about that little idea of hers for 25 years, literally. It was smart. 5. Wait, what? Oh, okay. Oh, green sleeve. No, then you probably shouldn't be out there running or anything. Okay. I did some experiments, and I'm going to tentatively interface the zipper slit. Can you guys hear the vacuum? I'm really sorry about that. Oh, let me turn my computer so I can see the chat a little bit. Okay. So I interfaced some fabric here. This one I put a ton of heat on right here. And I feel like for the most part it did pretty good, but the right side, can you see it's a little bit flattened and there's not much pile. So this was too much, and I really sat there with the iron like I was trying to fuse it to it. This one, I just barely touched it, just got it on there, and it's holding really good, and it didn't affect the other side. So that's what we're gonna do. You can hear but it's not a problem. Okay. I don't think they've ever vacuumed at 11 in the morning on a Thursday. I don't know when they do it though, so maybe I just miss it. Okay, the key with this is that you really want it to be a straight slit, right? You want a nice straight line. I'm trying to think, oh, my mat's over there and I need it over there. I want to make sure I get a nice centered crease there. Let's see how it looks when I pull it open. Do we think there's a right and wrong side? Oh, they're different. I feel like this is the right side. This has more of a nap. We're gonna put the nap on the wrong side. Here's my crease. I'm gonna do a very narrow piece, 1 inch. And the idea with this is that it's narrow enough that when our zipper is completely finished, no one will even know this interfacing is here. You know what I mean? Because our zipper on the inside, we're gonna bind that edge. Don't fret, you stick with me here. If you really want a nice, ready to wear looking half zip, just stick with me. I haven't practiced, but I'm confident. All right, I'm gonna put this little salami guy under here because I don't want to really touch anything else while I do this. I'm just gonna poke my pins in there. And the upshot of this is if I end up accidentally fusing it a little too much, this whole section is going to be seam allowance. The vacuum's like right against my door. Wait, what? You put a smallest piece of microfiber in a shirt hem for a glasses clean. Oh, that's so smart. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think, yeah, we were talking about that with a bag, weren't we? Like my eyeglass pocket. The vacuum's bugging me. Let's just be honest here. Okay, I think she's done with my door. All right, so this is the right side. I hope this is the right side of the fleece. This side looks kind of nicer. I don't know, but I don't like that there's a nap. Shoot. Okay, the vacuuming's done. Oh my goodness. Took a year off my life. What do you think of the nap here? All right, well, it's done. I'm not going to cut another front because even though we have the fabric, I want to save it. Oh, that's right. It was on the overall. Oh, yeah, good remembery. Let me put my little box of interfacing scraps off to the side here. They really like to, they're like those peanuts that jump out of the can, you know? All right. Oh, I almost pressed record. What am I doing? Oh, my camera's locked. When did that happen? What the heck? Did I just bump it? Oh, I guess the, Hi, Raquel, how's it going? It doesn't help when I'm really still doing that, does it? You're like, wait, is she blocked too? I'm really sorry, you guys. I hate going to watch someone and their whole thing is not set up all the time, and I don't know. I literally have to buy probably a new computer to fix it at this point, even though my computer's amazing. Okay. I'll get a new cord. We'll try that first. All right, so here we go. So here we have our front here. We have our new collar pieces and we have our zipper guard. And unfortunately, we have to sew the shoulders together. I say unfortunately because it's gonna be a lot of shirt to manage, so. Oh, right, Giselle? No, she's a sweet woman. I don't want to scare her. And I don't want to have to do it. I can't believe they actually do clean the lobby, which is great, you know, because there's a lot of people here that just think there's like a magic person that comes and unlocks the main door and locks the door, and they just leave for the day and don't lock up. And I've come here and everything's unlocked. I'm like, who do you think locks and unlocks the door? Like, we do. We're all individual tenants, but we have to, it's like a unique situation. Yeah, you can see it's just this camera. It's just my machine camera. So, yeah, lawnmower season. I am definitely, I thought moving to rural, the country would, you know, like, oh, I'm outside of the suburban lawnmower. No, now I'm in chainsaw territory. So, hi Priya, how's it going? Oh, nice. That's cool. I would love to try one of those. I think I'm going to get to try one of those next spring. All right, so I think I'm going to cut my slit here while before it's the whole shirt. You know what I mean? But I'm a little nervous too. Let's be honest here. We're gonna fold it again. Anytime you see something like a Patagonia as a second, I imagine that this right here is why, because there's hardly probably ever seconds. I imagine that they didn't get this little slit as straight as they could. That's what I'm gonna go by my, look at me just eyeballing it after giving a speech about it. This is a viewer donated, God, it doesn't look straight, does it? The project level of my donations. And so we are sewing those today. All right, I'm gonna go down to about right here. I can see the crease inside the interfacing. I don't care about the interfacing not being that straight. The crease is more important. Okay. This will be a little big for him too, I think. But I'm going to try it on him, I think. All right, let's get our shoulders out. Meaning get your back, not your shoulders. I dropped the zipper. Here's my nice zipper. Matches pretty darn good. Let's make sure we put the, I feel like I picked the wrong side of the fleece. Hi, Elena, how's it going? All right, I'm gonna overlock it together. We're gonna put the fronts on top. Let's see if I can just, this is probably gonna make my camera lock up. Yeah, my floor's a little dirty right now. I keep just throwing stuff in off the table. We don't have a whole lot of overlocking, so I'm not gonna set up the camera for the serger. All right, so 3/8 inch seam. It's not too bad. I lightened up my pressure on the presser foot so that it would go through the thicknesses a little better. So the presser foot isn't pushing down so hard, because when it is, you know, it's like the more pressure, the harder it is gonna be to slide that fabric through. And when it's thicker, you need less pressure. It's only when it's really thin that you need more pressure. Okay, now the other thing I'm gonna do while we're here is the collar. What side is softer? I don't know. It's hard, it's honestly hard to tell. They're both really soft. Okay, we're gonna put this right sides together. Which way does the naturally, do you ever notice that your serger, your seam usually pushes one way or the other more? I always find that it pushes toward the right side of the serging, even though I push it that way. So I'm going to, because we're gonna go like this, and like this, and push the seam allowance up into there, we're going to put this, I think that means it'll make it, this, oh, whatever, I won't overthink it. All right. I'm not gonna trim my seam allowance on this one. If you use their pattern pieces, you should probably. Or just do the full seam allowance. I heard you just mention there won't be much serging today. How are the seams being finished? Well, I'm working on the neck and collar and zipper today. So I just don't have very many seams that require the serger. Just this, I mean, even the collar doesn't really require it. So the only other seam that will require the serger today is the collar to the neckline. So I'm going to do that right now. All right, so line up your collar, right sides together. I'm going to bind this edge here, but I'm going to do that. I would probably do that before I attached it to the shirt usually, but because I don't want to go back and forth with the cameras, I'm just going to do it now. But let's make sure we have our center notched. Our center notched. Make sure you do the exact same seam allowance at each of your starting and ending points, because these will come together and meet right here at your neck, okay? I may have missed some comments, but I'll be turning around in just a second and I'll be able to check. Let's get that on there. And then I'm going to line up my center back here. Oh, there it is. I knew I had a clip somewhere. There's probably one right here. Oh, no, there's not. Okay. Push your shoulder seam toward the back. My head's not in the way, right? I'm just constantly like feeling under here, making sure this is flat, that's all. I'm getting a little creepage on that under piece. All right, and then now we're going to come around to the front, line it up, clip it if you want. All right, and push that shoulder seam toward the back. Make sure it's flat too, because it's a little thicker fabric. It might want to just like T-stand, you know, on the bed. Make sure this seam allowance is about the same. My collar's hanging off a little bit. That's less of a concern. All right. Okay, now let's get back to our machine. Okay. Did I miss anything? All right, so now I'm going to sew this zipper guard, and we're going to go right sides together. You could do this with the serger too, but we're only going to sew the curved edge. I don't really feel like I need to use the serger. Let's turn the machine on. I threaded it yesterday. Now, this zipper guard might be too wide, but I just gave myself enough room just in case so that I can make it narrower if I want. I can already see even though I cut the pieces together, the jersey is a little wider than my fleece right now. You don't need a stretch stitch to do this. This piece is not going to stretch. It's definitely ruffling my jersey though, so I probably should be managing it better. Just look at how much shorter it got. I think it'll be okay though. All right, so let's clip this curve. Yeah, it is actually the 200, I think, weight. At the end of yesterday's stream, I took y'all to Rain Shed and we shopped outdoor fabrics, right? I'm going to trim down the seam allowance just a tiny bit. So some of the details that will make this look really ready to wear-ish are the top stitching that we're going to do. So this is going to be one of them. We're going to stitch this edge, and there's just something about the way they do things like this that make it kind of look like, that's possible. And then so you start realizing you don't have to follow all the home sewing rules, right? So now we're going to turn this right side out. I'm really being firm with this seam, like flattening it down since we can't iron it. And now we're going to turn it like this. This edge is going to get bound. We don't need to finish it. Don't worry about it. You really want this fold to be right here on the edge. So that's why I'm just kind of wiggling it in my fingers, you know, making sure that I'm really getting it how I want. My right thumb's like, I don't really like doing this. Okay, there we go. And now we're gonna top stitch it. And one thing if you're a little nervous about top stitching this, because this is one of those little fussier ones, what I would do is pin this along the edge, like this. Keep this nice and parallel and flat. My stitch length, I don't know. It's kind of long right now. It's almost a 3. I don't really feel like it needs to be that long, but it probably was that long on the last thing. I have a size 16 needle in, by the way. I don't mess around. I really wish there was a needle size between 14 and 16. That would be my sweet spot. I think it would be more approachable to people. But then we'd have an odd number. We don't do odd numbers, right? Okay, so that's looking kind of nice. All right, so now we want a nice even top stitch. I'm just gonna warn you, mine probably won't be. We're really just kind of encasing that seam allowance, and this is gonna make this thing just feel really good, you know? Feel like its own little entity. And it's the trimming of that seam allowance in there, and I'm pushing my fingers slightly like this to make sure I combat any sort of torquing or anything like that. I also reduced my pressure on my presser foot. So if you have a screw that looks something like this, or if you don't, look in your manual to see if you have something like this, because it really helps when you're doing super thick fabrics. And I really am just gently holding this firm so that the presser foot doesn't push the fabric toward me. I could have done probably a narrower top stitch. Top stitching is not my strong suit. I'm sure you all know that by now. All right, and I'm just gonna close this edge. Why not? I'm here. It's pinned. We're being a try-hard. Let's just compress this edge and keep it so that it's easy to use. Sometimes sewing things more than once like this may seem like extra work, but you save yourself so much frustration and time and seam ripping later on. I'm using a large needle because I'm gonna bind the inside neck edge. And I feel like with the fleece and the binding, it's probably going to be one of those things where I'm feeling like it's too much. So that's why. I use a 16 a lot, just so you know. I don't always have to use a size 16, but I do. My machine is calibrated for that. If people think of them as really just a heavy duty needle, but I sew just about everything except for things like lightweight rayon lawn or like a lightweight button down. If I were doing a medium or heavyweight linen, I'd probably go to a 16. So I hope so. It's going to South Dakota. All right, so here's our little thing. And really all we're gonna see on this is this right here. That's all we're gonna see when someone's wearing it. And if they unzip it a little bit, we'll see the underside of the gray. So that's it. All right, so let's get all these threads kind of cleaned up here. All right, where's my cheat sheet? All right, I did that. I didn't do that yet. All right, we're gonna bind this lower edge. Now, you know, I'm thinking about why not Hong Kong finish it? You know, like I don't really think we need to do anything fancy. Maybe that's how I did do it. I could just use jersey. You don't have to use rib. I just have this and I thought it would look good with this fabric. You don't have to use rib. If I do this and turn it to the inside and then top stitch it down, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Maybe that's what I do in the video. So this binding here is probably, I want to say 35 millimeters, like a 1 or a little less. I think you can get away with something a little less, but so this is what's going to happen. We're going to sew it at the 3/8, right? But we're going to wrap it around this edge. So maybe don't do it any narrower. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance just to make sure I'm okay. Now the goal with our collar is that when it's finished, it should, so let's check it right now. This is what I'm going for. This is the inside of my garment, right? So when we pull this down, I'm gonna have a little tiny bit of my upper collar on the inside here. So I think I can trim this inner collar down, even though I made it pretty small. And all I'm doing up here is just rolling it around the seam allowance there. So the seam allowance is up in this edge here. It kind of creates a nice even edge. Partly why I serged it, because I feel like it makes the seam allowance really nice, you know. Oh, wow, Aisha. Yeah, that's what I figured. I figured, like, you guys all had some really good suggestions. Yeah, it's a bad situation. So I'm going to cut this inner collar down a little bit more, because when we bind this edge, right, so we're going to bind this edge. Let me mimic how it's going to look. So, because I know you're following me blindly. I was thinking that I would probably update this thumbnail for the finish, for this, when this is finished, and show this picture on the thumbnail so people know that's what we're about to do. So it'll be like this. Actually, I'm going to pin this at more of a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Right, okay, so then this gets wrapped around like this. And so then, if we want this top edge here to be like this, and this down here, that's way too low. You see that? Here's my collar edge, right? And here's my binding. We want this really to be about like right here. We want this binding edge here, like the lower part of it, to land right at the neck seam. So if let's mimic that and see how much we want to, and I'll tell you the finished measurements of my collar once we've cut it down, so you can check your collar. So this is how I want it. So let's pin this in place, right? Something like that. And then we want this up here to be like this, right? So let's pin it so that it can't shift around and be all shifty. And we have this much slack right here, right? Which is a lot. It's fully an inch. It's kind of incredible to me. The reason that it's so much is, for one, we're not using the seam allowance on this neck edge, right? We're leaving it flat. So already that's 3/8 of an inch right there, that it's too much. The other is the fact that I'm folding it down this much and I'm binding it. So that's probably why. So we're gonna trim 1 inch off our neck edge here. Sounds scary. Oh, that's amazing, Aisha. Yeah, they need an ambulance. They have a lot of book drives on there, which I thought was really neat. Oh, come here. I think I'm going to trim off 7/8 of an inch. I got really nervous. Like, one thing that you don't ever really see me do on my channel is things like giveaways and things like that, because I get really nervous about legit stuff. I'm not really nervous. I'm not like a really paranoid person. It's just really like giveaways are a really big hassle. So if you love a YouTuber or a person in your life, like you have a YouTuber or an Instagrammer or whatever, and they do giveaways, just know those things are so much work and they're borderline illegally, like the way they set it up, they don't do it properly and they don't know that. They're not trying to. It's so easy to be outside of the rules in terms of service with those kinds of things. So the fact that they do those, and in fact, I'm pretty sure I didn't get a gig once because they were adamant to do a giveaway. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. People will love that. I said, you can host the giveaway. I knew it would bring a ton more people to my space, my Instagram and my YouTube if I hosted the giveaway. But I just don't want to, I didn't want to deal with it. And I was like, you know, I'm really sorry, just respectfully, you can either not do the giveaway on my channel or you can just do it. I will send everybody to you. And they just never replied. And I was like, all right, well, I'm really sorry to see you go because you guys really wanted this project. And they never said that's why. They just never replied. So I don't know. And I see people in the YouTube, the vlogger group asking about giveaways too. There really are. A lot of people just don't know that. And Instagram also knows, like they're combing the language of your posts. And they're like, hey, this looks like a giveaway. Is this a giveaway? They give you little notifications. So you got to be really careful. This looks so small. I'm scared. Stare me with the double check. Oof. This better be wide enough. All right, so this collar right here ended up being, where's my ruler? This one, this little guy. This right here ended up being 1 7/8 inches plus the seam allowance to sew it to the collar. This outer collar here, and you'll see like if I feel like that was too small. This one is more like 2 7/8 plus seam allowance on both edge. So there you go. So they didn't want the fuzz. Hi Danny, how's it going? Yeah, they're just really, like YouTube as well, they have a lot of rules surrounding them. So I would never risk my channel to give away someone else's product. That's the way I look at it. I'm not risking my channel and everything I've built for somebody else's thing. So, you know. And I don't know, I don't like giveaway culture. So, all right. We're going to bind this now. And we're just going to sew this right sides together. It's not even binding. We're just sewing a seam. A seam, okay? So we're going to put this right sides together. Should we overlock this? I don't really feel like we need to. I'm not going to. I'm gonna just ever so slightly pull on this. Yeah, sure, Terry. I know it was really fun watching the stream in some ways because you're commenting a lot in it. It was the one where it was so hot in here and it was on Michael's birthday and he brought me ice. I was just like, oh my God, now we have to watch this lady get ice. Hurry up. There were no timestamps in that video and that's my own fault. All right. Okay, I can't stress it enough that you should be making sure that all these widths match these widths over here, right? Because they're going together soon. So make sure. Do not just make it bigger if it isn't. Take it out and find the new seam line. We don't think like that. Wait, what do you mean? Okay. So now we have kind of all of our parts in place. We have our interfacing, we have our collar, we have our inner collar, we have our binding. Let me look at my cheat sheet here. All right, and we're gonna need more binding. And these, we're gonna need 2 binding pieces that are basically this little lower section here only, from the just above the neck to just past the slit. So I'm just gonna cut a piece just so it's a little easier to work with. You don't have to pre-cut it if you don't want, if you want to keep all your binding intact. So I'm just gonna cut 2 pieces like this. I have a really long zipper. It calls for a 9-inch zipper, I think. I'm doing a longer slit. So my slit here is about 8 inches. That's what I wanted. I'm so glad to see that. We don't, oh, I don't know. For me, I was just like trying to, because that stream, I sewed many of these at the beginning. Like I just sat there and nerded out on how to sew these. And then well into the stream, like an hour and a half into the stream, then I did my final one. And that's the one I watched me do. All right, so we have our little binding pieces and we have our zipper. Did I miss anything? Zip to slit, bind. Okay, this is it. 1/4 inch past slit to bottom of zip. Shorten zip if not. Oh man. Finish other side of binding. Okay. Yeah, I know. I should like, sometimes I'm definitely like, ooh, a new iPad? Sure, I'll take it. But you know, I still don't ever really enter things. All right, let's also now look at this. Okay, so you've got your fabric, your front here, right? I'm kind of flattening it out very gently and keeping this nice and relaxed so nothing's pulling, right? Yeah, that's straight. All right, and so now I'm just checking right here where the seam matches up here at the neckline because we want to make sure that they're gonna match. So when I say it doesn't match, right? Like say this side right here is more like down here, right? Right? And you're kind of despairing, right? So just don't do this. Don't take this side and sew it at a bigger seam allowance to pull it down, because what happens now is that you've changed the overall width of this piece and it won't match at the top. So you've solved one problem and created another. Just take out like a little section here and then, you know, readjust it how you need to so that you get the seam lines to match. So what'll happen is, you know, the seam allowance on one edge will be shallower than the other or something like that to get it to match. So, all right. So the way this is going to be finished, I'm just trying to make it so it's very obvious what you're looking at here. Can you see everything? I've got it kind of zoomed in. So we're going to sew the zipper from the top to the bottom here. We're just going to do a straight seam. We're not going to go across the bottom. And when I get to here at the neck, I'm going to slip my little piece of binding in there and go straight down, right? We're just doing a straight seam. That's it. We're not worried. We're not worried, okay? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to tack our little tops here down. So the reason you want to do this is that otherwise you'll have these little, like, you don't really know what to do with these, right? You want this zipper, the stop here, to go all the way to the top here, right? So we want it to look like this when we're done, right? We want it to stop right there at the top, just like that. Excuse me. This one has a lot of plastic on it, so it's like folds back kind of high. This is also why you want the zipper guard, because this stuff can be kind of crunchy. So if you just leave this loose like this, right? Say you just sew it in. Sometimes people will put it in the seam. So let's say you did that. So what happens is it'll fold back on itself like this. You'll have this little folded back thing in there, and you'll still have this raw edge poking out of the top edge there. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pull this down. Now there's two ways to do this. You can pull this down, right? Just pull it down just as hard as you can so that it's really firm, right? And when you do this little fold, line that fold up with this bit right here, that folded back. Just nestle it in there. See that, how it's just nestled in there? So now, before you stitch it, I just want to show you that there's two different ways of doing this. So if you did this with the zipper facing up, you're getting it like this. If you did it like this, with the back of the zipper facing up, and you did the exact same thing, see? Same thing, nestles in that little edge. What happens is, on this side, you have the fold coming down. There's not a right or wrong way. I just want you to be aware that it looks different from one side to the other, because sometimes what you'll do is you'll fold one side down this way and you'll fold the other side down like this. And it will look different in your zipper. Not a big deal, but I know how sometimes people get hung up on something like this, and I just want to prevent that so you don't go, dang it, I don't like that, you know? So just pick one. The other thing to think about too is some zipper tapes aren't as friendly. And if you have this little fold happening, sometimes the tape will do this. It will fold and get caught in your zipper, and you don't want that to happen because you want your head to be able to pass by, right? So just think about those things. I usually just do this right side up, nestle that edge there. I just kind of picked one and I just stick with it on everything. So this is kind of fiddly, and I'll hold it with my awl and just tack it down securely right along the zipper tape edge, just like that. And now do this side too. Make sure you do the same thing. So I'm still got my right side of my zipper up, so I'm staying consistent. I gotta hold it with that awl. It really wants to come undone. All right, there we go. And now your zipper is prepped. There is one person sometimes in a factory that this is all they do. They prep zippers. Getting rid of all these little threads so they're not sneaky. We don't like the sneaky threads. Just like that. All right, so now you have the zipper. And so now when I said pull it down hard, the reason I said that is because hopefully whatever they've applied to the edge here of the zipper is in the same spot left and right. And so that when you sew it in the seam, you're gonna get a nice level zipper. This one looks like the side's slightly higher. What can we do? You know, there's not a whole lot we can do. So, all right, so, okay, let's do this. It's just a straight seam. Okay, here's my other little tip that you're probably gonna not understand why, but if you get too far, you figure it out. So I don't have a free arm, so this is why I'm gonna show you this. I just have a flat table, so my table is flush with the machine, which has its downsides. I don't have a way to wrap something around the base of the machine, right? So I have to deal with my flat table. So what I do usually is I pick this side up and I flop it over like that. I like that my machine just underscored that. All right, so now we're just looking at this side of our neck here. And you can see I have this little edge sticking out. So let's just trim that up. Let's just make this nice and even. I say that and then I cut a wiggly line just like that. Now my zipper, I've cut my serger tails off, so it makes me a little nervous. So I'm just gonna secure them. Secure the end there. Because if I don't and I pull on my neck, it'll pull apart right there. All right, so now I have those little spots right there secured. I'm not worried about that. I sewed that with my regular machine. All right, so let's lay our zipper on here. Face down, remember, right sides together. And when we come to these seams, we want, let's see, how do we want this? We want both seams to press toward the main collar. So when we come down, this one's gonna go down and this one's gonna go up. And we're just gonna sew this. This is a really wide tape. I'm gonna let the tape hang off a little bit because remember, the other thing to think about, you guys are so quiet. The other thing to think about is the overall width of your zipper. So down here, right, we only have this like little slit, right? That's all we have. So the Y, when we cut the Y on the bottom of the slit, that dictates how wide the whole zipper is going to be, right? So if I sew this at a really wide seam allowance, right, my Y would have to come out all the way to that seam line, and that's fine. If you want a really narrow zipper, like say you only want the teeth to show, you're going to have to slide your zipper tape off so that your seam line is right next to your zipper teeth. Don't go too close. You need the head of the zipper to go by. All right. So if you wanted like, so just think about these things, because these are just try and be logical about it and like lay your zipper on here. Like, okay, if I used a 1/4 inch seam, right? Look at how much zipper tape is showing inside between my thumbnails and my zipper. That's pretty wide, and that's okay, but I feel like when you see those, they look a little, I don't know, they look a little sloppier. Sloppier? I don't know if that's the right word. I think choking up on the zip looks a little nicer because the fleece kind of fills it in there and it just looks less intrusive. I don't really like it when I can see the zipper tape kind of wiggling around inside my garment. This is a really big zipper, by the way. It's like probably a 5.0 coil chain. And usually a dress is going to be like a 2.5 coil chain. A lot of the zipper you see me use, or if you've ever bought one of my chicken boots things, those are all 4.5. There's a big difference, in my opinion, between 4.5 and 5. It's just that little bit kind of makes a big difference. But sometimes you just don't have a whole lot of choice. Most jean zippers are like a brass 5, I think, or 4.5, but it's different. That's a tooth and this is a coil. So, yeah, I agree. It's a nicer finish. So it's going to be fussier though. So maybe what we can do, I don't really like hanging my tape off without being able to see. So maybe what we can try and do is sew this with the garment up. Right? So let's see if we can do that. So the only thing about that is that if I sew this one first, it's the one with the guard, right? Because the guard for this jacket is going to be on the left side. I think the guard should just be on the left side no matter what. No matter what, men's or women's, it doesn't matter. It's not going over, it's going under. So if we sewed this one with the fabric side up, right, like this, and we hung the tape off, that could be a strategy. Oh, we need to fold this down. We need to line this up, not at that seam. We need a notch here. This collar is shorter in the pattern, but it's not shorter because of the, is this really gonna work? This better work. I'm worried about this width that I picked. Let's fold this down, fold that like there. Okay, that's gonna be okay. So we kind of want our zipper to be right here at the top there. It's gonna work, right? All right, so I'm gonna notch this right here. That's my top right there. And so let's put it on the other side as well. So let's line that up, stack it, and then put our notch here. Why are my hands shaking? There we go. Okay, that's the top of the zipper. If you want that little fuzzy on the inside. So, all right, so let's see here. Put this right here, right? Whoops, I was like, what's going on there? If we put that there, how much do we want to hang off. If we do this at a 1/4 inch seam on the fabric like this, what do we get? That actually looks really nice. It's very tight, right? So that means I'm hanging this tape, this particular one, off about 1/8 of an inch. I think I'm gonna just put a few pins in it. This feels really awkward to sew this side first for me. Okay, remember, we don't have to worry about that seam up here being pushed down because we're not even starting all the way up there. We're just starting down here as this one gets pushed up. I'm pinning today. I don't think I've sewn one of these in a couple of years, so. And then our binding starts here. I'm kind of thinking things through too, so this is going to get sewn here. I really don't like that I can't, I wish my tape wasn't this wide. It's really annoying, you know? It's pretty standard though. All right, I think we're just gonna have to deal with it. All right. Okay, let's batten down the hatches here, meaning clean up all the stuff I have. I'm just gonna start sewing. Sometimes I just have to do it. All right, so I have my little binding just set there, right? And my zipper is kind of a hot mess under there. But we've got our top of our zipper to our notch. You have anxiety watching. We're gonna zoom in too. A little bit more. How's that? This, I have the sharpness up, so sorry it looks a little pixelated, but otherwise it just doesn't look that great. All right. So sometimes instead of pins, I'll just tack things with my machine. I just find it to be a little bit safer. So I'm gonna take all my pins out. And we're gonna put this right sides together. So here's my zipper. We're putting this side to this side here. Right sides together. You can't put the zipper on any other way. If you put it right sides together, you can't put it over here, right? Because you're just putting the raw edge on there. So don't worry. Logic. All right, we got that to the notch there. I'm not using a zipper foot. If you need one, do it. I don't think I'm gonna need to because the tape is so wide. So don't pull on any of this stuff. Just let it lay flat. And I'm gonna keep that 1/8 of an inch away from the edge there. I'm gonna slip my binding under here. Just want it to poke up into the collar like, I don't know, 1/2 inch. Just something. Get my awl out. Had to pull the collar over a little bit. Because it's thicker there, it's gonna push away. So, all right, let's get that. Nice straight interfacing. And you wonder why these are $140 from Patagonia. Wonder no more. Now they have a machine that does this. I'm convinced. Just getting my zipper tape flush with the binding. And then pulling my fleece to be 1/8 of an inch away. All right, I'm gonna unzip this a little further. And see, look at my zipper just laying there right on top of the binding. So we're just placing the shirt right on top. My machine is barely fitting on this edge, so the fact that I can have my whole foot between this edge and the teeth is pretty incredible. All right, so now we're getting down to the slit. Keep your binding lined up there. I'm gonna have to shorten the zipper, and I'm choosing to do it at the bottom, not the top. So I should have told you guys you could do that at the top. All right, and so now we're just gonna go 1/4 of an inch past the slit. You just need something to cut that Y down to, right? And you need to go the same distance on this side when we come down, so then they'll be level, right? Oh, I didn't see RT Blade. I didn't say hi to you, sorry. I see Lindsay's doing good with you out there. All right, what is this really long thread coming from? Oh, it probably picked it up from that. I guess that they're doing the yard work today too. Okay, so let's look and see how it's looking here. It's looking good, right? And this is gonna get wrapped around like that. Clean finished. Collar is gonna come down and clean finish that. It's looking good. Okay, so we're gonna cut this slit over here. So do you see that? Where I stopped sewing, right, I came down right here. I went 1/4 of an inch past the slit. So I'm gonna now cut my Y from here to, you know, like right here. All right, can you see it? There's half my Y now, all right? Okay, so now let's finish our binding. You can pull the zipper. And we're just gonna turn this under. And I think, what did I find? That I do this so that did I do it all the way down? I can't remember. Wait, let me get oriented here. So if I do this now with the zipper back here like that. Yeah. Yeah, I could have gone all the way down. We could even turn this edge up a little bit. So I'm gonna turn that edge up. I think that's not necessary. We're gonna let it hang down. All right. I'm just gonna sew for like a 1/2 inch more. Put the binding, I don't know, like a 1/2 inch below the Y slit. Just a little bit. You just need something so that it'll look nice, that's all. Because we're gonna bind the bottom edge too. All right, so now we're gonna turn the binding under and just edge stitch it. No one's gonna see this, it's fine. We're just clean finishing it. Man, I would probably not do rib every time though. Rib's like, hey, I wanna have a party. Wants to spread out, lounge. Just make sure you keep your stitches to the right of the seam we just sewed, okay? Just folding it under. And you see how the rib wants to lift up like this? That's because it's like rib spreads out, right? So I'm just sort of hemming it in, or not literally hemming it in. I'm just sort of like pushing it together as I go. Trying to fold it directly across from where I sewed its other edge. We're just staying in the seam allowance right now. We're not affecting anything with the zipper. Just think of this as seam allowance. All right, so now here we are up at the top, and we'll just go a little bit past like that. Well, that doesn't look so good, but look, see how bad that looks? That's going to go under like this. So now that's what's going to look like on the inside of the garment, like that. Not that great, but all right. So, and I think that that's because of the ribbing. Ribbing is kind of thick. So if you use like an interface jersey, you would probably have a better time. Or what's that stuff? Oh, I got it as a lining fabric from a subscription box. I don't really know what it was. It was like a polyester weird stuff. All right, so now let's do our other side. It's looking good. See? Looking good. All right, so here's our little zipper guard. So now we have one more thing to manage. But we get the easier side now because I just did the harder side. Oh, sorry. Okay. I keep wanting to flip it over, but I'm going to keep it wrong side up because of the zipper tape. All right, so I'll put this right sides together, zipper to the top, right? Try not to pull on anything. Whoops, sorry. Like that, okay? Let's look at this one. That's how it is, right? Right to the top of that slit, okay. Yeah, you could use ribbon. Grosgrain ribbon could work. Grosgrain ribbon's so fussy though. Twill tape maybe. I think something that's not so spongy like the rib. Thanks, Raquel. All right, so let's put this. Yeah, can you tell I don't do this very often? Sheesh. I gotta get oriented here. Sorry, let me just get oriented real quick. Okay, so here's my zipper, right? Put it in there like that. Yeah. Now, we're probably gonna have to deal with our zipper head this time because we need it to stay above the slit. All right, so we're just making sure right now that we still have it the right way, and we do. Let's peel this back like that. Sit like that. And then where's our zipper guard? I don't want to move because I feel like it's right here. Oh, wait. Here's my other piece of binding. But I do it on this side, right? So many things to manage. Oh yeah, I'm sure you have something that'll work, Terry. I'm literally using my binding for the cover stitch machine right now. I don't think that this was ideal. I just thought like looks wise, it felt like the dark gray was the best to go with this, you know? All right, so if this is our zipper guard, right? We want it to be like this. And do we need this to be, oh yeah, we need this to be in the seam with it, like that, right? Yeah, okay, so we need to take that first pin out. So I'm gonna wrap my zipper guard around my top zipper here. And now I'm gonna put it right sides together. Don't worry, I'm gonna orient you in just a second. But we need the zipper to stick out a little bit. This is a lot to manage. All right, so this is what I've got going on right now. There's no way that that is how I do this. Oh, I know. Take the binding out there. So this is how it's gonna look when it's done. right? Like that. The binding goes here. It'd be so helpful if we actually had real pattern pieces with notches on them. All right, I'm going to try and, I think I'm just going to line up the guard to the zipper tape because it's wide enough that I have enough that I can do that. And it's one less thing to manage. So now we just have these 3 things hanging off the edge, and just our shirt is 1/8 of an inch shy. So right now what we are looking at is the neckline, the garment wrong side up, the zipper tape, the zipper guard, and the binding. The binding is like pushed 1/2 inch above the neck seam here. Up here, I'm going to put the guard lined up with the zipper tape again. And one thing I learned in that video was to take this little folded down tail like this and kind of pull it over a little bit like this. Because see how this is level right here at the top of the zipper? What we're going for is something a little bit more cinched down like this at a little bit of a rounded angle there. You see that little tiny bit hanging off. In fact, we'll just trim it off so we know that's what we line up to the edge. Get the big guns out. All right, how are we feeling? We ready? Moment of truth. I don't know if I'm ready. Let's see. Okay, so the shirt needs to be 1/4 inch away. I don't think I am right now. Okay, got my machine helping me now. Got all this stuff here. You can pin all this if you like. I know it sounds crazy, but I really do feel like it's easier without pins for me. So it doesn't mean it is for anyone else. I'm not saying that that's better or not. It's just, for me, I like placing things as I sew. You probably think I'm a fast sewer, but really I'm sewing really slowly today, right? Because I'm just kind of checking things out and I place them as I go. The thing we're worried about right now is that things are going to line up across from one another. So just make sure you sew this in the same way that you did your other one, best you can. And we want to finish sewing this. I'm going to mark across here where we want to finish sewing that. I don't know what side I'll be seeing, but when we get here, how does that look? Like this? Okay, so I'm going to pull the zipper head up a little bit. I'm going to have to pull it down in a second, but that's okay. All right, carrying on. I made this look easier in my video. I'm just straightening all these layers down here, just flattening them out a little bit. So now it's going to start feeling a little dicey. It may have already started feeling that way. I understand. So down here it's feeling kind of tight, like you're like, there's just no way, right? You're going to make it, but you're going to make it. We may have to slit this soon, like before we get there. I'm going to pull my zipper head past right now. Yeah, do I want to? I think I may have to slit this. Dang it. I'm pretty sure I knew that, but I was kind of scared too. So this is my slit right here. I'll pull this over. See how that worked? See, that was the bottom of the slit. Do you see the Y? right? That's where I first sewed to and slit to. And then now I mimicked the same spot, and we're gonna pull this little spot, my fingers in the crook of that Y, we're gonna pull that over here and line it up to the chalk. Let's get all our layers lined up first here. Binding, zipper guard, zipper. If this is too fussy, skip the zipper guard. They don't need to know that you could have saved their chin. All right, so I'm really pulling this over. You see my little triangle here. Boop, boop, boop. All right, I'm gonna get my awl, and we're gonna pull this down. Okay, we'll do a little prayer. Let's check it out. Oh, that's acceptable. See ya, Aisha. There we go. So that looks it looks really good. I'm really shocked. Okay. Like for me, fleece is so good for this because it really hides everything. All right, so this is what it looks like down underneath here. We have all this zipper here, and I'm just gonna cut this off right now. And we're gonna cut off our zipper guard too. All right. We're gonna bind the edge now. So let's trim a few things. Okay, we're just gonna turn the binding to the inside here. Oof, it is thick. It is thick. Look at how much thicker that is. So, you know, what if I just pull it over and I don't turn it under? Because of the zipper guard, it's kind of thick. We could trim it down a little bit. Try not to trim your tape, your twill tape though, of the zipper, okay? If you really need to compress these edges, maybe just sew another row of stitches in the seam allowance here. Let's see if I can pull this over. I'm gonna not turn it under. I'm just gonna stitch it down. All right, so that's up in the neck area. We're staying in the seam allowance. We're not really affecting anything else. So I'm gonna pull this over. Just sew it down. Let's just stay to the right of that seam now, because if you go past it, you are affecting what shows on the right side. This feels very cheaty to do, to not turn under that edge. There may be regrets, especially since it's asymmetrical. It won't fray or anything like that though. All right, so that's kind of what it's looking like right now on the inside of the garment. There's the zipper guard, there's my other binding. So this right here, we can bind as well. I think I've been clever before and did this binding at the end, and without the zipper guard, like the zipper guard had to end like right here, right? It ended like a ½ inch before. So if that was like ending right there, then you can go around and do the whole thing in one continuous binding. All right, so let's start on the underside here. We're gonna make it a little shorter too. Oh, we can also sew across our triangle. Let's do that right now so we don't forget. All right, so I like to make sure that I get a nice kind of straight edge. So I fold up the whole garment. So you see how this is the bottom of the zipper and I'm folding sort of straight across. And we're just gonna sew this little triangle so that it stays down. I don't do a really big like stitch and go past or anything because I don't really want to take a chance and go past those little corners. That's sufficient. Those other corners will not pull out. So what I've learned with some of these types of finishes is that sometimes less is better. And sometimes you want to like top stitch everything so that you can kind of control it. And like this is one of those good cases. Oh my gosh, my neckline match is so mismatched. Oh, how did we not notice that? Who didn't notice that? Who didn't notice that? It's so far off. It's a good thing I don't cuss on stream. All right. Oh, you guys love sewing drama. It's all your fault. You probably did see it and you didn't tell me. I was wondering why down here it felt lower. That's why. What side do I want to fix? They match right here pretty good, kind of. This one's a little lower. I think I'm gonna fix this side. I'm gonna leave this one alone, and I think I'm gonna just pull this one up a little bit. But I don't want to. I don't want to. All right, let's finish this bottom here, and then we'll fix it. Thank you, Nancy. Elaine is like, I promise, I would have told you. Yeah, right, it's Aisha. Let's see, can I? Yeah. Do I want to do it that way? Yeah, so I'm going to do my weird little binding thing. I'm not going to, I don't think I'm going to, do I want to fold this under? All right, so the vacuum cleaner noise. Yeah. Dang vacuum cleaner. No whining and sewing. I like that. All right, so I made that pretty chunky, didn't I? I think I'm gonna pull this really tight to actually, so I'm gonna just sew across the bottom here. I think it'll look tighter if I really pull on it. So I'm going to pull this pretty hard and then fold it back like that. And this one I'm going to pull pretty hard and just lay it down. And now I'm going to sew across again. Almost to the end. So that I have enough room to trim this off like that. So you see how these two edges here line up. Give it a good tug. Now I just tuck it in here. This is my own little awkward invention because I used to have to finish the bottoms of zippers all the time. There's probably a better way. The sewing fairy did not even warn us this time. Did I miss a warning? Is she just like, maybe she has the day off. She got sucked up in the vacuum. That's probably what happened. Okay. Pulling that tight is gonna make this a little easier to sew, but I want it to look pretty good. Fuss, fuss, fuss. Did I catch both sides? Oh, I did. Okay. All right. That'll work. It's not the best, but okay. So now let's take this out a little bit. Good thing we got that big old honkin' seam length. We're going to be careful though, since we just sealed the deal at the bottom. I think, you know, when I was learning to sew, no, way past when I'm learning to sew. You're in awe. Well, I mean, didn't go so well. Awe and impressed, totally different things, right? When a long time ago when I was sewing, and I wasn't really a beginner technically, but, you know, still learning things because, you know, you're always learning things with sewing, clearly. The worst is if you had a project and you were sewing really late at night and you were so frustrated and you're crying at your sewing machine. I would be crying at my sewing machine. I don't think I did that a lot in college. I definitely cried a lot in college, but not like late at night sewing anything. It was really usually if it was someone else's project I was working on, like a client type of thing or a little job, or I had an event to go to the next day, you know, and you're just exhausted, you're feeling in over your head and you're crying. That right there, that feeling, it's kind of it's a unique feeling because you're just alone, right? There's no one awake. There was no internet there either. I didn't know anyone else who sewed. And so when I started mentoring at this high school, that was my biggest goal. And I would just tell them flat out, I'm like, look, if things are getting dicey, just stop and bring it here and let me help you. Please don't be sitting at your sewing machine at 11:30 at night crying, because we will get this done, and you do not have to do this all by yourself. Because in that project, they were a designer, and the whole objective was to get 4 completed looks walked down a runway minimum, right? And it didn't matter if they sewed it or not. That was not it. They were designers. They could have their grandmother sew it. They could have anyone sew it. It wasn't Project Runway. 95% of it was sewn by the students, but I would seam rip for them. They would come in and I'd be like, ooh, okay, let me just go sit in this corner and seam rip this satin that's never been serged, you know, and get it back to ground, you know, like level, neutral, and go from there and rescue it, you know. And I'd never wanted them to feel alone, and I never wanted them to feel hopeless, you know, because I didn't want them to give up on sewing, because I hated that feeling at night. You're just like, I'm never doing this again. Or I'd be like, I'm never doing this again, you know. And of course I would, here I am still doing it. So I think anyone can relate when they're trying to learn a new skill or they have a deadline. And now I can look back and go, 100% I shouldn't have been sewing at that hour. I was tired. And you just think, well, I can't not do it. I have to get this thing done. But then you end up making some catastrophic thing and you're like, well, I guess maybe I should have stopped, because now nothing's getting done, right? So biggest thing I can say is if you have it in you, do the seam ripping, then walk away. Anytime you have an issue, do the seam ripping, then walk away. Because if you can come back to it seam ripped, I promise you're going to be like, this isn't so bad, you know? You want to make a bomber jacket? That's cool. We made one earlier this year. We made the Audrey? Amelia. Sorry, Amelia Bomber by Wardrobe by Me. Right, Terry? Yeah, quiet screaming. I should give you my phone number and you can text me because I'll be still awake. You're in Georgia. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to take out this little binding piece here. This is no big deal. We got this. I want you to know that fixing this is actually going to be a lot easier than it seems. And the reason is because the fleece is really, really forgiving. Better not be forgetting. So now I'm going to take out this little binding seam here. And all we really need to do is to adjust this between the top and like maybe we can go down low if we want, right? Because we're just trying to get this seam to match right here. And so we just need to adjust it in here. We can leave this bottom, we can leave the top. We know those are fine. We just need to move this guy right here, and we'll probably stretch it a little bit. We're not even gonna deal with the seam because we know that seam was okay originally. It's just purely, this is probably that my machine stretched it a little as it sewed, or I did, because remember we did one from one way and one the other way, and this way was the harder way for me. So yeah, right, Amy, exactly. Yeah, the guild is great. I got a really nice email from someone. I don't know if you're watching right now, and I am going to email you, but I had to move my computer, and this is really the computer I look at the most, but it's really hard to work at, like, because there's a whole frame around it. You guys can't see it, but there's a whole structure holding all these cameras to it. And typing, responding to that email on my phone is just not going to do it justice, but it was someone that is trying to figure out how to be a part of the community that we mention here. And the community, you don't have to pay anything to YouTube. You don't have to pay to be in my community. It's free to join. There are paid tiers, and they do help me out. But you can be a part of the guild without paying anything. And lots of these nice people you see in chat don't pay anything to be in the guild, and some of them do. It doesn't matter. We're all equal. So, and that link is sosoguild.com. So you can join that community. It's very low key. It's not like a lot of forums or Facebook groups or communities. She was from Missouri or Kansas area, and she was hoping there were other people in the guild that were from there as well. Oh, thanks. Terry put the link in the chat. So it's really cool. I mean, there's not a ton of posts, which is nice, but you can post your makes. You can post in there and say, you know, I need help. It's not like a bunch of forum threads. It's looks more like Instagram. So it's not for everybody, but we love it. It's I don't like social media, to be honest, so it has to pass my test. All right, we're ground zero. I got you there. It's not even your project. And here I am trying to comfort you. All right, so let's see here. So now we've got this. And we want this to be up here, right? Ooh, our zipper garage could have been a little bit bigger, but it'll help some. So, yeah, if you get into the live chat though, okay, so there's a whole like the posting area, and there are free things you can look at, like little areas you can poke around, like where videos are, and there's the summer camp shirt so long. But the main guild is like a feed with like photos and comments. That's basically it. It's pretty. And but there is this one little thing that says, I think it says live chat feed, and there are about 20 people that are really involved in that. And right now, let's see how many. I actually looked at it the other day. But the other day, I opened the guild on my computer, and I could see there were over 1,200 unread chats. So I don't really use that one. And they were talking about me right when I looked. I was like, oh, you guys are talking about me, because I think Love to Sew podcast mentioned us. And so it was kind of funny. I was like, oh, this is weird. I mean, I said hi, but you know. You don't have to do that though. You don't have to do the chat. So this just feels lower. Like I really want to pull this side up. Let's pull out a few more stitches here. Let's pull out a few more stitches. Get this to relax a little bit. And we have to get this caught. Why does it look like it's, there we go. Inspiration, help. Yeah, and you switched it off, yeah. Yeah, I can't ever, once I start getting caught up, someone will chat in there, and then I'm like, oh shoot, it just threw me down at the bottom again. So, And they talk about like non-sewing stuff in there too. But that's a great place if you're like, gosh darn it, my bobbin ran out. I always use that as an example. You see how it feels? Like these are not even attached. Why does this feel low over here? I think I am gonna just undo this all the way up, and this is the easier one anyway, so. This is all I'm doing today, by the way. This is part 1. I'm just doing this little zip thing. And once we get this leveled out, oh, I have the neck. It's 12:40. I'm having lunch with Michael, so that's it. I said 1 or 1:30 I'd be done. Right. What's a good first zipper project, like a pouch or something? So if you want to be a garment sewist and you are going to encounter zippers, think of zippers as just a straight seam. I just, a lot of sewing in zippers isn't really that hard. It's a little intimidating though. So I think, yeah, like I think what Terry said, you can get zippers pretty cheap at a place like Wawak, W-A-W-A-K. And I would just get a bunch and some fabric and play around. And I would get some invisible zippers and some regular like dress weight zippers. Just get a few. Clothes, not separating zippers. Those are for jackets. Unless you want to do jackets, then get a few separating zippers. But spend like $10 or $20 on a few zippers. Give yourself some thing to play with. And then look at tutorials and try a few out and see, you know, which one speaks to you, you know, because I really don't think people give themselves enough practice time, and they have a lot of anxiety. And the thing is, if you just were spending that time practicing instead of being anxious, then it will be so much nicer and easier and fun. So you try a simple skirt. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, skirt. Okay, so there we go. Let's pull this over like this. A separating zipper is no easier or harder than doing a skirt zipper or a pouch or you know, an invisible zipper. They all just are a little different from one another. Zipper fly is its own thing. I have a tutorial for that. I don't know, I'm just playing around with this. Samples, yeah. I once was hired by a friend, and she wanted to learn how to do a fly zipper. It's a long time ago. She wanted to do a fly zipper. Where did my zipper go? There it is. And what we did was I taught her how to do it, and then we did it, you know, like a few times together. But I ended up making her like a sample in different stages. So there were like 5 samples, and literally it was like, this is the first step, and then I would sew the next one to the second step, and I'd sew the next one to the third step, and then we had them labeled, and then she could just refer to those. And I think that that's really great because I do that. I actually have samples like that for me too. I can't remember how to sew all of it right off the bat, you know. So, okay. This just feels like it's pulling. All right, so we're gonna just open this up and place this right there. Look at how much it's pulling down here. So maybe we'll go a little lower. Kids' clothes too. There's not a lot of zippers on kids' clothes, but kids' clothes are really great for low-risk items. I don't understand, why is this so, like, why? You know? Why? There's no way that's how it needs to be, right? Oh. But look at that. I thought I did. I like put them right sides together when I notched. But I don't know. All my kids wanted polyester Philly Costco. Well, good. You don't have to sew for them then. I think when you grow up with a sewing parent, you're either like, please make me things, or I don't want anything homemade. My daughter was kind of both. Gym shorts and kid t-shirts. There you go. All right, that looks better, don't you think? Okay, let's pull this up like, you know what it is? I think that, remember when I folded down this little edge here and I said this one looks a little lower? I think partly it's that. I also think it's partly an optical illusion. It's definitely, like, that is looking straight across, but this zipper looks lower to me. And it's probably, you know what it is? It's the thickness of the zipper guard. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. Okay. All the frills. Yeah. I think Shim's here. Sorry, I'm going so slow. I'm paying attention to the chat too. Okay, I think I'm there. Terry, what do you think? I think I got it, right? Now look at that. So let's take out a little bit of this. If you've got your bottom zipper okay and you're having this issue, there's no need to despair. We're going to fix this. The more fabric we have, the easier it'll be to ease it in. Let's see. Let's do a little more. I don't want to get too close. All right. Okay, so now let's look at it on this side and clean up those threads. So I have to do this 2 more times this month. So yeah, we're gonna get good at this. All right, so this was my final edge. I'm just gonna take out just this binding edge here, because otherwise I won't be able to get my machine there to sew the seam. So this is just the last edge of my binding. Pretty sure. Because see, there's my seam right here, right there. So we just need some space in order to blend in with that seam there. All right. I mean, literally the stream I did this in where I practiced, I think I made 5. Right, Terry? We got this, right? Okay, so that is pinned the way I want it up there. So we're gonna unzip. Okay. Now, the zipper tape hangs off. I'm trying to remember everything. We need to slide that over, and I'm scared to slide it over, but we need to slide this over. And we need this back here. Okay. Nobody move. This is a stick up. Okay, and then we're gonna ease all this in here. Then we're gonna have a gin and tonic. And just so you know, Giselle, this is not how the instructions are on this pattern. It's easier. Yeah, exactly. Exactly what Julie just said. I have made this a lot more involved. Okay. So let's start down here at the bottom. Once I get this under the machine, it's going to be a lot easier to manage. Right, sewing fairy. Okay, let's get this under the machine. Oof, I barely have enough to sync up with that. Okay, barely. All right, so now, okay, now we're golden. We're golden. All right, so line up all my binding with the zipper tape. Jacket, 1/8 of an inch away. Look at that, no problem. All you doubters, just unsubscribe. I'm just kidding. Nah, we don't need no clips. No, I'm just teasing. If you need clips, use clips. They would be helpful. Okay. So this right here needs to stick out. All right, let's double check. Ooh. Okay, I see this one little thread right here. It's what I was tugging on right here. So let me grab this thread. Where is it? Where are you, thread? Here you are, you're way up here. Oh, that's not, is that it? That's right, it's between here and here. Where's this thread at? Is it between here and here? Yeah, there it is. Okay, is that it? No. What the heck? Where's this thread coming from? Here. Okay, it's between the ribbing and the tape. The heck? That kind of stuff bugs me. There's one thread I can't grab. We'll just cut it short. All right. Whew. Okay, so I think my only problem with this, like I can kind of see a little bit of asymmetry here. You know, I can let it go. It's fine, but you know, we learned a lot. We learned not to do this again. No, just teasing. All right, so now we have our collar. So we're gonna pull this down. How are you? Right, yeah, like this. And pull the binding up, all right? So we're folding down on that notch and we're lining up our bound edge to the neckline, right? And we're gonna sew this into the seam allowance here. It's very thick, so I imagine this will be a little harder to get symmetrical as well. Now I'll trim my serger edge. Oh, I could have pulled a little harder right here. See that? Oh, and we want the seam to go up. All right, let's take this out. We're not giving up now. Like, we're not like compromising anything now. Hammer time. Yeah, right? Hammer time. I'm just going to take this out. You know, it's just like, it's not even me to the rescue. It's just a little bit of seam ripper time in a story. You know? Pull out all the threads. Get it back to neutral. You know, and then work it out. But you be gentle with your rib. Rib is unforgiving, I think, as far as the like holes in it, you know. All right, so up here, we want this to get pressed. Oops, it's not quite all done. There we go. Always get rid of all your threads too, if you can. I don't know where this guy is. Oh, here it is. My caramba. Can you just go away? Thank you. All right. I hate it when I grab the fleece. Okay, back to neutral. So if we pull this, we're gonna pull it really hard. We want the seam allowance to go up. Okay. Look at my notch, it's getting pretty stretched there, I know, but we really want it to be flush with our guard, right? And then this also gets seam allowance down, right? Yeah, seam allowance pushed down, binding pushed up, like this. So let's just sew our binding like that on the edge. Like this. So see, there's the binding, right? Pull, seam allowance up. Line up this edge to the, see, here's my seam of my neck. So you have a guide there, like that. Really pull that top. Fingers crossed. Get rid of some of these threads. This is what we call optimism. Yeah, it looks better, right? Right? Okay. Yeah, the seam ripper is an amazing tool. I love it. All hail Thomas Miller. That's who we decided. That's who invented the seam ripper. Okay. Let's look at our. See, it's gonna look like that. It's a chunky zip. All right, so we need this to be right here. We need this to fold right here, okay? So let's fold it right there, like that. We're gonna poke the zipper in. So I am pulling it a little bit lower than that notch. This one I'm not gonna pull too hard on because there's not quite as much to pull it against. All right, I'm just gonna start sewing and then arrange the bottom in a second. So I don't have to hold this. I was having trouble getting my machine to grab it. Oh, I didn't rebind my, oh my God. I have to rebind this. I don't think this is sewing either. I think I ran out of thread. I am actually shocked we lasted this long with the amount of bobbin I gave myself today. Yeah, I think it is too. I think like when it's the zipper's undone, it looks really nice, right? When the zipper's in there, this zipper's really big for this. I would make this bigger. You know what I mean? So, okay, let me finish sewing this binding on the side because we forgot that in our glee of triumph. Our triumphal glee. It's getting hard to sew down here because my zipper head is so big. All right, so we're just gonna finish this little edge here. Get it in there. I bet Michael's watching to find out if I'm almost done. I will be done by 1:30, no matter what. No matter what. Yes, triumphant seam ripping glee. Oof. Up into the collar here. I'm just gonna pull this over like this. All right, still didn't get that great of an edge there. At first I was doing pretty good, but it does get turned back on itself like this. And that looks a lot nicer this time, this little top stitch edge there. So win some, you lose some. All right, now we can pull this down. There's where I started and I ran out of bobbin right there. Let's get rid of these little threads. And then let's make sure this matches again. Seam allowance up. So let's fold it down like with this, with it, you know, right sides together. That, now poke that zipper in there. And then get it started. Now it wants to sew. Oh, seam allowance up there. Seam allowance of the neck up, but the binding we're doing down. And we're matching this edge to our neck seam here. It's okay that we're sewing on this finished binding, that's okay. So like that. Let's check it before we trim any corners. You notice I didn't trim any corners on the other side, and that's because once you trim the corner, you really can't adjust it anymore. All right, this is fine with me. I think my nap of my collar is going the wrong way. And we just look at it at that angle and it's fine. All right. Okay. So we're going to finish this neck now. And we're going to start at the center. Wherever that is. We need a, do we put a label in? Is that the center? This is why I do pretty big V's usually, but I didn't this time. Do we put a label in? I feel a little self-conscious doing that. Because this is a complete stranger. I'm finding the center of my neck because I lost the mark. That was definitely not a great way to figure it out just now. There's a, I keep thinking we have all these videos dedicated to zips and flies, but that's in that SBS, isn't it? Pretty sure. All right, and then let's find the center of this. How do I do that? You know, in my video, I noticed I marked the center with a pin when I serged over it or something so that I wouldn't lose it. That was a more evolved Sarah me. All right, so I'm just measuring, finding the center here. I don't want any torquing, that's why I'm going to this trouble. All right, now we're ready. So, first thing we're gonna do is put our center. Oh, okay, like that. I'm wrapping it around the seam allowance. Seam allowance is pressed down. We're gonna go just past our neck edge. You know, actually, maybe we should finish. Yeah, we do. We should do that. We should put our binding. We should have done that already. Sorry. Okay, I was thinking that we could do this all at once, but we're going to, so before you do this front edge here, so finish your binding so that it's up. So I'm gonna stitch in the ditch right now. So I'm gonna fold the binding to the inside, the collar seam, the inner lining seam is pressed down. Do a label, okay. I'll let you guys help me pick that out. All right, so I'm gonna stitch in the ditch. I'm not gonna be able to get all the way to the collar edge, but that'll be okay. Wrap your binding around it. I'm gonna lift this up and I put my fingers under the binding here and I pull like this. That's what I'm doing here. When you see me, put my hand under there. Seam allowance that way. And then we're doing like a Hong Kong finish. This will be a lot less bulky than doing straight up binding on the edge. I'm really into the Hong Kong finish lately on binding things. I'm really pulling on this ribbon because it wants to grow. It's also not very conducive to stitching in the ditch because it's thick. Should have just used this jersey I had, but I didn't plan on the lining of the collar till today. Otherwise, if I had, I would have used the same fabric. I think interfacing the jersey really makes it stable. A label without branding. Yeah, I think I have one. I need like 3 though, right? I really want to come out with a line of labels that are like more gender neutral. All right, so there's our, it's okay. it's okay. We're thinking about that cheeseburger. That's what's happening now because we're going out for burgers. All right, I lost my center. Great. Because we didn't think about marking it. All right, so now we find our center here. I should really just do a dedicated how-to video when I have this a little bit more down pat on how to do this so that it's like just so many fewer steps, you know? One of these days I will. I would like to spend more time on it before I do that because I think that there's easier ways to do this whole thing, so. Okay, we need a label. What do we got? We got this one, just teasing. All right, okay, the Handmade Goodness could be good. Handmade Goodness on this one. Because all these others are, I don't know, they're just so cutesy. And maybe we can do like Yay on, you know, the kids one and Make on the adult woman's. The yarn, I do have the yarn label. Yeah, and if I don't, I just steal them off my website. Yeah, right here, this one. But I wouldn't do this on this men's. I think it looks cool though. The colors look really good with it. You're lost in Wayback. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? These are all these long, skinny ones, and some of these are kind of scratchy, I think. I do have my plants, but I think it says so-so on one side. I have the, yeah, it says so-so. Oh, this looks so cute on here, though. So the other side's purple. Handmade. Our advice on WayWag is put it in your cart. You don't have to buy it. It'll stay there. Create an account, put it in your cart, Giselle. That way you can kind of save things for later or whatever. Because like sometimes you'll want to wait until you get free shipping, you know? What do you think of that? We'll just do handmade goodness? Or you want to do the plant? Really? What do you guys think? Sorry, it's really bright. This is like a muslin twill tapey kind of vibe. Yes. I don't know what yes means. This one? Handmade? Yeah. Okay, cool. I think so too. It's simple. Put it right here. Just want to glue it on there. All right. Just really want to make sure that this doesn't get too wide up there. Not a whole lot I can do at this point, but still. All right, so that goes there. This is the part of this whole thing that I'm not a huge fan of because I do like stitching collars from the right side and not the wrong side. In this method, you kind of got to stitch it from the wrong side. But we're going to try our best to get this right at the neck edge. We can try and stitch in the ditch from the right side. That is just so close. Okay. I'm just kind of pulling it and seeing where the shoulder will be. It's this right here. Okay. See you, Terry. Have a good one. All right, this is the other thing I remember thinking about is that getting this little messy edge here, I should have thought about that while I was sewing down the front. I'm getting rid of threads right now. I don't want to trim any of this because it just makes it harder to deal with, but I can kind of fold that up in there. Pull the collar over it. Keep it nice. Look at that finish. That looks nice. Really having trouble getting pins in there. All right. Let's do a couple more here. We just have 2 more rows of stitching. We have this one here at the neck and this one up here that I'm really hoping will work out because it's looking a little wider than I want it to be. Put a few more quick pins in here. I know, doing it from the inside is definitely scarier. The thing about fleece is it's pretty forgiving. And I really like when I see some that have the stitch line right here. I think that would be the easier way to go, to be honest. But we're not thinking about that right now. Okay. All right, give us a little tug here. The rest of the garment's going to be a piece of cake. I am wondering what you guys think about binding the sleeve hems and the hem of the garment in this same gray ribbing. Or should I just hem them like regular old hem, you know? Because we could cover stitch the hems as well. Okay. This is for me, like this is the moment where it's the calm before the storm. Like, oh, it all looks so good. It's all pinned in place. It's exactly how I want it to. Now, do I have to have a stern talking to with my machine to get it to stay that way, you know, or myself? Okay. Batten down the hatches here. Get rid of everything because it's a big shirt, so I have to make sure nothing gets slid to the floor. Whoops, or you just throw it to the floor like that. All right. Do I go from the right side or the wrong side? I'm kind of tempted to try from the right side and stitch in the ditch. And you know, you could always hand sew what you don't catch. Yeah. I think that's a great idea, actually, Ray. I didn't even think of that. I think that's a great idea. I'm going to try stitching it from the front. Okay, let's wish me luck. I'm going to hand crank my first few stitches to get it in the ditch there. All right, keep this all nice and relaxed. Where's my awl? I'm also feeling for my neck edge of my binding. I can kind of feel it. No peeking. Don't you want to peek sometimes? I can feel the neck edge of my binding. I'm hoping that's what that is. That's what my fingers are doing right here. And I'm just sewing right over those pins. Okay. Well, that's it today. No, I'm just teasing. Let's see how I did. All right, right here at the front looks really good. A little high on the binding here, but remember we've already secured the binding so we know that it won't come undone. This is doable in my opinion. I would take this for the first time sewing this in a couple of years. I'll take it. Okay, so now the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push the seam allowance in the collar up into this little area here. And now I'm gonna stitch in the ditch again here. This is, that honestly, I just want you to know, this is the best stitch in the ditch I've ever done in my entire life. Entire life. I'm not kidding. Usually my machine doesn't really like it, but there was something about this it just loved. Look at that. I don't know why. Let's hope we get another one. All right, so now I'm just gonna stitch in the ditch of this here. So this will show, but but it's going to make it look a little more defined. So it might just really like having this one thick side. I don't want to get cocky. Now, this time right now, I would probably be more concerned about getting a nice parallel to the top edge here. Top stitching. Oh, I just had a skip stitch. Did you see that? I saw it. You can tell when your machine skips a stitch because you'll see all of a sudden the thread go shoop right in front of your eyes. And it's that thread slack because it didn't get the stitch. You could probably do well to use something like a jersey needle when you're sewing things like polar fleece. And I am sewing through this jersey here too. That's a pattern on my website. my pie slice pattern. I used to sew and sell those a long time ago. Why does it not feel like my seam allowance is up here in the neck edge right here? I think it got pushed down. Weird. Yeah, I think a lot of people prefer magnetic pin cushions. I'm not personally a fan of those, but they work really good, you know. You could always do that. All right, my zipper's here. We're not sewing in the zipper. We're just through a lot of thickness here. Okay. Let's get rid of the feed dog texture. It's a little wide. I used to have a roommate when I was in design school who got so mad at all my pins on the ground. I had to count them every time I pulled them out of the pin cushion. It was actually a really good strat. I really was dropping a lot. All right. Whew. The collar looks a little short. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. I'm gonna text Michael, tell him I'm done. Because I know he's probably really hungry. He eats a lot earlier than me. Okay, here we go. Looks cute. Looks pretty good. Nice and finished. Oh, my collar. Oh, Nancy. Thank you. Look at my label, though. There's the fail. How come we didn't notice that when we were taking pins out? Here you go, handmade goodness. That's so funny. Oh, thanks, Nancy. I appreciate it. I love this. Well, we'll fix that before Saturday. Get rid of this little stitch. So on Saturday, we will sew our side seams and sleeves. And then I'll see if you guys, oh, look how long this thing is. Let's see. It's a fleece dress on me. All right, my microphone's underneath. It's a fleece mini dress. It's literally, this is actually kind of comfortable to wear. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's sitting on my legs like a skirt. A fleece tabard, ready to joust. I'm trying to see these torquing lines here. Right? Okay. I see these little lines when I see these that are store-bought as well, so I feel like, hey, mine looks like theirs. All right, cool. All right, that turned out pretty good. I'm happy with that. And I am looking forward to finishing it too. So I'll see you Saturday, hopefully, and we'll be finishing this up. Sleeves and hems is about it. Might need to add some other things for Saturday, huh? Something to do, right? We could add a little chest pocket if we really wanted to make this, you know, more work. A little vertical pocket. I don't know though, I'm kind of scared to mess up the front, but all right, well, thanks for hanging out with me and keeping me, you know, entertained while I entertained myself with seam ripping. Yep, cheeseburger and paradise. They're hard to come by here. we have not many restaurants. Yeah, these sleeves will be super easy, Giselle, but I have a how-to on how to set in a sleeve if you've been doing some of that kind of sewing. I have a playlist and it's like called Quick How-Tos. I feel like you can sort on my channel by like most watched videos, and it's one of those. So how to set in a sleeve or how to set in a sleeve with the French seam, depending on what you want. So I won't be doing those techniques on this. This will be so easy to set in because of the fleece. The fleece is just really going to make it easy. So we don't have a whole lot to do on this. That was all the work. 2 hours later, we have a collar with a neck and a zip. So, all right, have a great rest of your week, you guys, and I'll see you guys Saturday.